When we think about what we truly need to survive, our minds usually jump to the basics, right? Food, water, shelter. But what if the things that make life worth living, the things we really can't live without, are totally different? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty powerful idea about four invisible but absolutely essential qualities that shape who we are. We're going to unpack this through some really personal stories that might just make you rethink what a fulfilled life actually looks like. Just imagine for a second growing up where this was the unwritten rule. This was the reality for the speaker back in 1970s China. It's a pretty stark philosophy, isn't it? Might makes right. The strongest person eats first, the biggest kid takes whatever they want. It's a worldview that's about to smash head-on into a completely different way of seeing the world, and that collision is what gets this whole conversation started. And that culture shock was, well, it was immediate and it was jarring. I mean, picture going from a place where the biggest truck just barrels through everything to a place like Canada, where all of traffic will grind to a halt for one single person crossing the street. For the speaker, this wasn't just about traffic. He saw it as a society built on a completely opposite principle, one he calls biblical, the idea that the strong actually have a responsibility to look out for the weak. This huge contrast is the jumping-off point for his entire exploration into the four needs we're talking about today. Okay, so this brings us to the very first of these four essential needs, which the source calls endurance. Now, we might know it a little better as patience. It's a virtue that, let's be honest, a lot of us can struggle with. But the argument here is that it's the absolute bedrock of our character, and that foundation has to be laid right from the very beginning. That sounds pretty impossible, right? I mean, babies cry, toddlers have meltdowns. It feels like it's just hardwired into them. But what if it isn't? What if a child could learn, right from infancy, that being calm is way more effective than throwing a tantrum? Well, the source material gives us this fascinating and very personal story about how this was actually put into practice. The method they used is, wow, it's just stunningly simple. So let's walk through it. The baby, Zachary, is in his crib, crying for attention. But instead of just rushing to pick him up, his mom speaks to him. She calmly makes him an offer. If you stop crying, Mama will hold you. See, she's not punishing him, she's teaching him cause and effect. And, remarkably, he gets it. He hears her calm voice, the crying stops, and boom, she immediately picks him up. He's learning a huge lesson. Calm communication gets results. So what was the results almost 2 decades later? Well, according to the speaker, that baby grew to a young man who has never thrown a tantrum, not once. He learned that core lesson in his crib. Patience is powerful, protest isn't. But what this really shows is the parents' endurance, doesn't it? It must have taken incredible consistency from them to just calmly do this, day in and day out. The payoff, though, is a person with this deeply ingrained patience. It's a powerful example of how character can be intentionally built, not just something you're born with. So from endurance, we move to our second need, encouragement or comfort. It's something we all desperately need when things get tough. But the source asks a really interesting question. Who's actually the best at giving it? And the answer is a total paradox. Often, the most powerful comfort comes from the very people who are in the deepest need of it themselves. This story is set in South Africa, and it starts with a real tragedy. A man named Enoch, a pillar of his community, super passionate, only in his 50s, was dedicating his life to serving others. In just a heartbreaking turn of events, he passed away suddenly while he was literally working on the blueprints for a new community building. His death just sent these shockwaves of grief through everyone who knew him. So in the middle of this overwhelming sadness, everyone was lost, looking for some word of comfort. And the person who gave it to them was the last one you would ever expect. Enoch's own wife, Dorcas. And to make it all even more tragic, she was in the United States when he died, so she couldn't even be by his side. And yet, it was Dorcas who became the rock, the source of strength for everybody else. And this gets right to the heart of the argument. Dorcas wasn't just offering up empty words. She was speaking from the center of her own pain. And she was pointing people to her husband's legacy, telling them to be strong and courageous. Her comfort was so powerful because it came from a faith that had just been tested by the worst thing imaginable. She was someone who stood firm in the middle of a hurricane, and because of that, she became this unwavering light of encouragement for everyone else. This whole idea of standing firm in a storm leads us perfectly into our third great need, hope. It's a word we use all the time. But what is it, really? Is it just wishful thinking? Or, as the source suggests, is there a kind of hope that can withstand anything? A hope that isn't attached to our circumstances at all? The source gives us this beautifully simple definition and calls it the best he's ever heard. Hope is faith looking forward. It's not just being optimistic and crossing your fingers. It's an active belief, a deep conviction that is pointed firmly toward the future, no matter what the present looks like.
Okay, so if hope is faith looking forward, where does it come from? And here the source draws a really sharp line in the sand. On one side, you've got the idea that we have to keep hope alive. It's on us. It's a human effort, something we have to generate and hold on to with our own willpower. But the source contrasts this with a totally different view, that we don't keep hope alive, but that a divine external hope keeps us alive. It's a huge shift from relying on yourself to relying on God.
And for the ultimate illustration of this God-reliant hope, you have to look at the biblical story of Job. I mean, this is a man who lost literally everything. His kids, his money, his health. His friends are blaming him, his wife is telling him to just give up. By any earthly measure, his situation was completely and utterly hopeless. And yet, from that pit of total devastation, he makes this staggering declaration of faith in a future he absolutely cannot see. His hope wasn't based on his circumstances getting better, it was based entirely on his belief in a Redeemer. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most mysterious need of all, peace. And the source is really clear here. This isn't about everything being quiet and calm around you. This is about a deep internal calm that can exist right in the middle of absolute chaos, danger, and trauma. To really get this kind of peace, the speaker takes us back to South Africa with two more true stories. First, imagine showing up to your church one morning and finding it stripped bare. Robbers had come in and taken everything: chairs, tables, all the equipment. A total violation of a sacred space. And then the stakes get even higher. A family is ambushed in their car by gangsters. A shot is fired. The bullet rips through the car door and lodges in their son's leg. And the speaker adds this chilling detail that the bullet is actually still in his leg to this day because doctors said it was too risky to take it out. So, how did these people react to all this trauma? This is the core of the story. After the robbery, and even after their son was shot, the source says they had peace. Not just some passive acceptance, but an active, courageous peace. In fact, the very day after the shooting, the family drove right back into that same dangerous area. And when the shocked locals asked them why on earth they would come back, their answer was simple. How can we not come? You are our family. Now, that reaction, it just doesn't compute with our normal human instincts for fear or anger or just protecting ourselves. And according to the source, that is exactly the point. This is what's identified as the peace of God which surpasses all understanding. It's a peace that the world can't give you, and frankly, a peace the world can't even comprehend. It's described as a guard for your heart and your mind, even when every single circumstance is screaming for you to panic. So, as we start to bring this all together, we've walked through 4 really powerful ideas, and each one was illustrated by stories of incredible testing: endurance, encouragement, hope, and peace. Let's just look at them one more time. The endurance to build character right from the beginning. The encouragement that can only really come from shared suffering. The hope that looks way beyond what's happening right now. And the peace that can stand firm right in the middle of chaos. The final argument that our source material makes is a really challenging one. It makes the bold claim that these 4 qualities are the real riches, that they're more vital to a truly abundant life than anything else we spend our lives chasing. More than money, more than a big house, a secure job, or even a fantastic education. The argument concludes that without them, a life that looks full of success on the outside is in the end still empty. And so we're left with this provocative question that the source poses. If these 4 qualities, endurance, encouragement, hope, and a peace that goes beyond all understanding, if these really are the essential ingredients for a meaningful life, then we have to ask the next logical question. Where do they ultimately come from? That's a thought that's definitely worth exploring.